The Waldmann Commander in comparison with each other.
Hello, my name is Chris and this is Writing Delight.
Today I have the new Waldmann Commander 23 here. This is a new edition of the older Commander, with a few changes. Let's take a close look at the Commander 23 here and compare it to its predecessor. As we know from Waldmann, the pen comes in this packaging. Here the pen is held securely. In the bottom layer we have warranty cards, blue ink cartridges, an emblem that tells us we have 925 silver here, and a cleaning cloth. Let's take a look at this pen. We have a fountain pen here that is mostly silver. The cap has a large dark field that has silver lines running through it. Below that, on the trim ring we have the engraving Waldmann and Made in Germany. The finial where the spring-loaded clip starts is silver and flat. On the clip we have a small and very neatly worked Waldmann logo. The barrel is not only colored silver, the majority of it is sterling silver. This one also has grooves on it. The cap is screwed. Underneath we find the silver metal grip zone and the large nib. Let's take a look at it in comparison with the Commander. In terms of external dimensions, the Commander 23 is identical to its predecessor. The difference here is in the dark area of the cap. The Commander has many small black fields separated by silver lines. On the Commander 23 we have larger fields. These are not black, by the way, but have a blue shimmer, but this is very subtle, depending on the light. The biggest change, however, is under the cap. The Commander 23 has a much larger nib. From conversations with the company I know that it was not a simple swap, but some adjustments were necessary to get this large nib in the same body format. Because, as mentioned before, the dimensions haven't changed that much, and you can't really swap the caps between the two models either. But here once a few details of the fountain pen. The logo is finely crafted. On the barrel we have the indication of 925 silver, sterling silver. And of course, once a shot of the nib, in this case a medium nib. Let's take a look at how the Commander 23 feels in the hand. It's a big pen and not a light one, but it is excellently balanced. It fits perfectly in my large hands. Of course, with the cap posted, the center of gravity is significantly shifted. In large hands this is still comfortable. For smaller hands, however, this could clearly weigh down the end too much. The fingers find enough room on the grip zone. In the writing test, the pen glides pleasantly over the paper with light feedback. And the nib can flex a bit. The line variance is easily achievable. By the way, the ink filled in here is Kyo no Oto No. 05 Aonibi. As already mentioned, the fountain pen glides smoothly over the paper. It is a very pleasant writing experience. The ink application with this ink is rather wet. In comparison with the predecessor, it is clear that this one writes almost identically. A pleasant glide over the paper, and a discrete flex option with good line variance. With the predecessor here, it is still a little easier and stronger. But that's not surprising, despite the small nib. For one thing, the predecessor I have has a broad nib, and for another, the nib has been inscribed for a long time. You can see the red writing on both nibs here. But let's take a look at the pen in direct comparison. First, a comparison with its predecessor. The differences are minimal on the outside, and yet clearly visible under the cap. But here in comparison with the Visconti Homo sapiens, a Montblanc Petit Prince, a Pelikan M800 Blue Blue, a Pilot Justice 95, and a Lamy Safari. All pens are about the same size when closed and open. With the cap posted, the Commander 23 stands out a bit. In the second comparison, here it is with an Aurora Black Mamba, a Clio Scribent Aurora Laguna Dragon, a Diplomat Wave, an Otterhood Design 04, and an Avalor Skullkill. Now you can ask yourself why there is the Commander 23, when there is the almost identical Commander. But that is exactly the point. The Commander no longer exists, and there was no longer one, because Waldmann had already taken it out of the program earlier. However, there were still so many requests that Waldmann put the pen back in. At least, that's the reason Waldmann gave me in conversation at the trade show. So it was reissued. But it was not simply manufactured again. They changed it slightly. They addressed a point that I'm sure some people noticed. The nib is a little small for this pen. So they gave it a big nib. And I think this large nib fits him perfectly. The pen is called Commander after all. By the way, the adaptation to the big nib is supposed to be bigger than you can see. Therefore, it would not be possible to fit the old Commander with a new nib. Oh, and another change is to the cap. The black panels, which were relatively narrow, were replaced with wider panels, and they were black. They are now very dark blue, officially called midnight blue. It is in my opinion darker than in the official photos, but it looks excellent. Sometimes it's almost black but with a blue sheen. I've always liked the Commander. The Commander 23 is a fancy upgrade. Not necessarily a compulsion for owners of a Commander to buy the new one, but it is a great pen. I like it so much that yes, the old Commander is in my top 10 of my favorite pens in 2022. And in case anyone is wondering why the 23 is in the name, it came out in 2023. Yes, I really like the Commander 23. And in a direct comparison between the old and new versions, I would have a hard time deciding. Both pens write great in my eyes. Yes, I like them. How do you like the pen? And which version do you like better? I hope you found this little review helpful. In any case, thanks for watching. And many thanks to the Waldmann Company for the test sample. If you like, give me a thumbs up and a subscription. It would make me very happy. And feel free to watch one of the other videos linked here. Maybe you'll find them interesting too. See you next time.